god! Oh my god! Oh my god! It's actually happening! Oh! Kidding me!
We lost the audio.
Oh my god! Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we got another tier list video for you. I had a ton of fun doing this for Elder Scrolls, and since we just passed May the 4th, May the 5th be with you, I wanted to rank every Star Wars game. Normally around this time of year, we are doing some sort of Star Wars retrospective, but I wanted to be a little less predictable here in the year of our Lord and Savior, 2025, and just talk to you about, well, every Star Wars game I've ever played, which as I was going through the list and putting it together, we have 39 Star Wars games to rank. So first, prayers to our editor, Josh. We love Josh here. He makes all these videos happen, whether it's our mammoth of a video like Mega Man Legends retrospective or something like this, so give him some love down below. But other than that, let's get into this so that we can try to at least speedrun some of these games that aren't very good. But let's start off with an S tier. Ladies and gentlemen, Battlefront 2. What hasn't been said about this absolute peak video game? Everything from galactic conquest to its instant action to its heroes versus villains mode just was a staple in my childhood. Hours and hours and hours of gameplay from Battlefront 2. It's still a game that I fire up nowadays. It is truly a timeless gem. It's such a shame that the Battlefront Classic Collection went down as poorly at launch as it did. I know it's been patched a lot since, so that is good news. But man, this is a game that for people who grew up in like the mid 90s like I did, you know, we were just turning like 9, 10 years old by the time this game came out, and it was an absolute treasure trove of Star Wars content. It was coming out hot off the heels of Episode 3. You had the full campaign. It just was a do everything game. So I adore Battlefront 2 and still to this day play a lot of it. But there's yin and yang here. There always must be balance in the universe. Battlefront 2015 from DICE. I'm sorry, you're gonna call this harsh, but this is D tier. I have a video on my Mr. Matty channel just talking about how disappointed I was in this. Now, for those who don't know, here's a little bit of Matty lore. Leading into Battlefront from DICE, I had a Battlefront 3 wishlist series that I was running on my channel. And one of the primary wishes that we always went back to as a community with Battlefront 3 was DICE has to make it. It made so much sense. You look at the Battlefield franchise, it made all the sense in the world. So when DICE comes around, there's no galactic conquest, very few maps, the way they changed how the gameplay feels, it was just a looker, and that did a lot. It looked and sounded great. That's part of the DICE DNA, but everything else surrounding it felt so hollow. This was not how I envisioned the return of Battlefront, and that disappointment is still sour to this day. Now, I will talk about Battlefront 2 because I feel like, especially with DICE, you can't have a conversation about 1 without bringing in 2. 2 years later, I think DICE made up for it a decent amount. I'm gonna put this in the A tier. I thought about B tier because the launch with the star cards were awful. I think the campaign in Battlefront 2, and especially the DLC campaign, are terrible. But there's no denying that DICE hung with this one. They made Battlefront 2 into an A tier game. When it launched, it probably a B or a C, if I'm honest. It was an upgrade over Battlefront 1 because it actually had a campaign. This is something we expected, but it had it. It actually had instant action. It didn't have galactic conquest, but I think, again, with the post-launch support and all the modes and the offline support they gave it, it more than made up for it. It's such a shame that nowadays hackers are ruining the game because it's one that you could still fire up technically and have a blast with today. I also feel like just as this game was reaching its peak of like the comeback era, like it was just storming back onto the scene, they moved DICE off of this to make Battlefield 2042. And I love Battlefield, but my God, this game was just turning the corner. The amount of support it was getting, the sky was the limit. So I hope DICE gets the chance one time to do a Battlefront 3, but it seems like it'll continue to elude us for a while. But at least there was that leak that one time where there was like a playable Wii build of Battlefront 3 from, I think it was like Radical Entertainment. So there's that. One day, hopefully, we'll get our official Battlefront 3. All right, Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I'm gonna put this in the B tier. Gave me carpal tunnel as a kid, man. My forearms are jacked now because of this game, because I'm just mashing that attack button constantly. Now, fortunately, the remaster that Aspyr did, allows you just to hold the button. And so the new generation has been saved from an era of carpal tunnel, at least spawned by Star Wars Bounty Hunter. But look, animation quality in this game's amazing. A whole game about Jango Fett and bounty hunting. It's just a really cool premise. The voice acting and the story cutscenes are great. The music, of course, is fantastic. And while it's like simple lock-on shooting, just playing as Jango Fett, like this is the game that made me as a kid dress up as Jango Fett for Halloween. So all the love to my favorite bounty hunter. That armor, so sleek, so cool. So just having a game about him is beautiful. Next up is Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is a C tier game, I can't lie. It's because while the vehicle gameplay and missions are pretty good, and I have so many memories with this game, if I'm really objective about it, Clone Wars is pretty mid. The on-foot missions, the camera controls, we actually just talked about it in a playing PS2 games on PS5 video where PlayStation just was randomly dropping very obscure PS2 games, and one of them was Clone Wars. And while I have a deep retrospective on it, I do have true love for the game. I'm also like a Star Wars diehard, and I can see through that and go, yeah, like vehicle-based Star Wars games, like, you know, the strictly vehicle-based Star Wars games. We'll talk about some in a little bit. Not really always my cup of tea. So Clone Wars sits in this pocket of like cool vehicle-based missions, lots of unlocks, which I enjoyed. Of course, we love the Jedi Academy that takes place at the end of episode 2. Just being able to run around on foot as all of these different Jedis is very cool. Or clone troopers, that stuff's awesome. Like it turns into a twin stick shooter. Again, I have a lot of memories just romping around that arena. But in the scheme of things, like Clone Wars is an okay Star Wars game. Speaking of which, Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes. I gotta put it in the D tier. This game should have been so much better. Great for kids, but when I think of the games I grew up with, right? Because that's what I always heard, like, well, it's not that bad, man. You're just too old for it now. But it's like, look, I grew up with, you see right here, S tier, Battlefront 2. I grew up with Bounty Hunter. Clone Wars was the definition of mid in my childhood, right? So when I look at Clone Wars here, and I'm just like, nah, this is just like very simple, mindless gameplay that takes place within a show that would grow to be one of the best parts of Star Wars. I just feel like it was an ultimately missed opportunity here. The controls, the camera, all of it, not great. It's just cool to have more Star Wars in this universe. And it's honestly before all of this show just became peak. So there's that to consider as well. Dark Forces. This is B tier for me. It's easy to get spun around in its levels, but I played the Dark Forces remaster and I loved it. It's Doom or Wolfenstein or Quake, whatever you want to call it. It's like one of those old school shooters, but it's Star Wars. And I just had a lot of fun with it. It is very simple. Again, it's very easy to get lost in these games, but I just love that there is a strictly first-person shooting Star Wars game outside of the Battlefront game that exists, has aged kind of well, has a great remaster attached to it. Shout out to Night Dive Studios. They did a wonderful job just retaining the essence of the game, so people like me who play it for the first time were able to appreciate it while modernizing with like controls and some visual upgrades and that sort of thing. It's beautiful. But yeah, this game is just like you can romp through it in a few hours. It's a ton of fun. It's just very simple and bare bones beyond all of that. Like, it's just Star Wars and shooting. If you like that, which I do, boom, you can go ahead and pick that one up. Next up here is Star Wars Elite Squadron. For those who don't know, this is the PSP-based Star Wars game. This is a B tier for me. Pretty good stuff here, right? I remember some late nights with this one when my parents thought I was asleep in bed. I was grinding some Elite Squadron. I remember playing this around Christmas time, actually. Elite Squadron is awesome because even though it wasn't console-based, this was one of the games that allowed you to go from the surface into a ship and fly up, and there would be a loading screen, but you'd fly up into the sky and you'd be able to fight on aboard the spaceships and stuff. Like, I thought that was so cool for its time. It's still cool. Like, there's no real Battlefront game that was doing this sort of thing. There was no real Battlefront game doing this sort of thing, and to see it on a PSP was awesome. It was very lock-on based though. I kind of didn't like that because I think if they were to bring back the Squadron games in like a little remaster collection, I'd be really keen to see how they feel with modern controls where you can actually aim and shoot, because again, Elite Squadron and Renegade Squadron we'll also talk about a little bit. These are games that actually, let me find Renegade Squadron, because I put it, yeah, like right here, they kind of do the same thing. It's not like as big of a jump between Battlefront 1 and 2, as I'll talk about later, but these games kind of find themselves in the same pocket. They both have campaigns, but they're just really impressive for PSP games. They're just very lock-on dependent, which for me takes some of the fun out of the shooting and running around and going on streaks. Like, it was really easy to go on streaks in this game compared to even Battlefront 2 or 1. So that kind of keeps it from the A tier area for me, but still like really awesome games that I play to this day. And I'd love to see them re-released with modern controls. Empire at War. Get your Star Wars RTS here. Gotta put some love on Empire at War. Honestly, pretty generous A tier for me. I'll be real with y'all because I have not finished this one or played like a metric ton of it compared to a lot of other games on this list. But Star Wars Empire at War is a really cool RTS that gives you the opportunity to play out like every Star Wars campaign of your dreams and control and experience an actual Star War. And I just think there's a lot to love about that one. There's one that there's not a lot to love about, and that's easily the worst game we're talking about so far. Star Wars The Phantom Menace on PS1. Extremely unhinged Star Wars game, like really out there dialogue, but like awful balancing, awful save system, awful visuals, awful voice acting. It's definitely one of those awful tier games that I know people just got love for because they grew up with it. But for me, as someone who played it last year and did a whole retrospective on it, I think this game is terrible, frankly. But speaking of great movie games, hey, let's throw one in the S tier. Why don't we, right? Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, whether it's the PS2 and Xbox version, or it is the DS and Game Boy Advance version, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith is easily some of my favorite Star Wars gaming. I've done so many deep dives on these games that I promised myself one final one because I just couldn't let go, and that was last year as well. We did a 30-minute plus deep dive on the console version as well as the DS version. I urge you to check it out because I'm so proud of that video and how well it did because I love these games so much, but they're just great beat 'em ups. Like the console version is literally taking like that Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, as well as Return of the King combat system and bringing it to Star Wars. That is awesome. Meanwhile, on the DS and the Game Boy Advance, you have what is one of my favorite side-scrolling beat 'em ups ever. So just incredible Star Wars game in here. Also incredible is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This is an easy A tier. This really restored faith in Star Wars gaming. When EA got the license, there was a lot of hope around it. They had the perfect developers to assemble a Star Wars factory and put out some of the best content. But after Battlefront 1, and I know Battlefront 2's had a bit of revisionist history and it's earned its way into people's good graces, but this was at a point in like 2018, 2019, where Star Wars gaming was like, man, remember the golden era? And we still feel that way, to be frank, but it's been a lot better since the Star Wars license has been freed from EA, in my opinion. But when all the hopes were low, here comes Respawn, developers of Titanfall, really showing their prowess, their flexibility, and giving you Jedi Fallen Order, which I coined in my review as the best Star Wars game since Knights of the Old Republic, which is my favorite game of all time. This is definitely, I think, an in-the-moment comment from me. I don't know if I would really feel that way now, especially with how I feel about Survivor, but it was such a restoration of hope. Like, this is Star Wars at its best. The Dark Souls inspired combat and level design. Cal Kestis is a wonderful protagonist. This is a pure Star Wars story. Like, anytime someone says, hey, I'm low on Star Wars, I always point them to the Jedi series because I'm like, this is a faith restoration exercise. You play the Jedi series, whether it's Fallen Order or Survivor, and you'll just immediately be like, this is why I love Star Wars. So to have such a strong reminder of that in the middle of my favorite era of Star Wars, right? Like, this is post episode 3 and it leans into that heavily. Love that about this franchise. So it just feels like it's hitting all the right chords for fans, for myself. Combat's awesome. Different styles are awesome. I just, the only complaint was, brings it from S tier to A tier. It's a lot of ponchos that you unlock. Not really exciting. Force Unleashed. Oh my gosh. Easy S tier. Now that is a game that completely changed me as a kid. Just the way it captured how epic the Force is, right? You always hear about the Force and it's like this whisper in the wind and it guides you along your way. But Force Unleashed literally unleashed the capability of what the Force could do. I mean, you're pounding people through starships and landing and plummeting into planets, like the way you're crushing together like massive machines. This game just made you feel so powerful. Plus, it has Starkiller, who's one of the best protagonists in the Star Wars franchise. You know, this is before, and I'm looking at you, Battlefront 2 campaign, before the whole conversion story in Star Wars was wearing thin on a lot of people. And I thought the kind of morally gray approach that Starkiller had and what kept him so hesitant in his conversion made him such a compelling protagonist. So while it spoke to a lot of the original trilogy story, I felt it was still very original. When you combine that with like an amazing physics engine in there, and you're just ragdolling stormtroopers constantly, it's just, again, a really fun game to play. But the story, the presentation, the costumes, the DLC, by the way, just going around and destroyed Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The DLC in Star Wars Force Unleashed is amazing too. So just a lot to love about this game. Force Unleashed 2. This one for a lot of people kind of goes into that disappointing area of Battlefront 1 for me, right? Like how I described it is how a lot of people feel about Force Unleashed 2. For me, Force Unleashed 2 is B tier. I'm sorry. Like if you're like a mid version of Force Unleashed 1, you are still a great game. Is the length of the game disappointing? Yeah, sure. Like I wish it was longer than 5 or 6 hours, but it's still like 5 or 6 really good hours. To the point where it killed this series off doesn't make sense to me. They canceled Force Unleashed 3, and I would just love to have Sam Witwer like back in this role and reigniting the Force Unleashed franchise. But I had fun with this game. It's more Force Unleashed. It's not better than Force Unleashed. That's an amazing like Star Wars defining title. But Force Unleashed 2 is good. I have a fun time with it, so B tier. Star Wars Hunters. Yeah, this is like, I go between C and D. Like, I enjoy me like a little hero shooter MOBA style game. It's not bad because these games are to me like bad, very bad or disappointing. I think my expectations were in check, where I kind of put Star Wars Hunters in the C tier. Like, I kind of enjoy just firing it up, romping around as like one of the hero characters that they've created, and just messing around. Is it my go-to? Everything above it absolutely is what I'm picking up first. But for like a new on the market Star Wars game, I found it pretty harmless, all things considered, but also like this is in the middle of like Acolyte releasing and everything, where I'm like, my standards have been lowered dramatically. We also have a Star Wars Clone Wars game here in Jedi Alliance. This is also C tier. Again, pretty inoffensive Star Wars game. The way it kind of messes with the touchscreen and using the Force and Star Wars lightsaber battles, I actually think it's pretty unique for a DS title. It's just, again, one of those things where it shows you all its tricks in the first 30 minutes, and then you have like 3, 4, 5 hours of that just constantly repeating the same things, and I think it just wears out by the end. Oh, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Yes, sir. S tier. One of my favorite Star Wars games ever, easily. This game is so fun to replay too, just because of the different character builds and how you can visualize your character, like all the races you can play as, the loadouts you can take into your missions, like what guns are you taking, what lightsaber are you taking. And this is still, in my opinion, like some of the best lightsaber fighting you can get in Star Wars. Obviously, there is the movie battles mod, which has its own community, and that community is a little wild in chat sometimes. But you know, when we're talking about like how you can just square off with people in this game, it is really cool because you just get to see the Jedi Knight Jedi Academy system and how far it can be pushed, where like actual lightsaber clashes are real, defensive techniques are real, and also it's got dismemberment, which is something that we really wanted to see in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is why it's also A tier. Is like, where is our dismemberment at? Why aren't you doing what Jedi Knight Jedi Academy did? Doesn't have to be bloody, just take off a limb, why don't you? This game let you like literally hack off torsos, arms, legs, and then there's a great choice by the end of the game. So this is one I still highly recommend to this day. Love Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. You're starting to see a trend here. Let me put it right next to the other vehicle-based Star Wars game. Yeah, I'm not like a really big vehicle-based gamer. This is something that's just weird with me, like Battlefield, for example. I romp around in Battlefield on my feet more than in any vehicle, and that's a game a lot about the vehicles. I don't know if it's a pride thing or whatever, but yeah, like you just get to fly around in space, and it's kind of like, you know, Ace combat style game, but you know, it's Star Wars. I will also say here that this game runs horribly on PS2, so it's also just not really good to play. I'd never really tried it out on the PS5 port though, so maybe it's better there. Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. This one's like definitely a purist style Star Wars game. Some people don't like Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. I cannot really vibe with that. This is B tier for me, especially because I went from Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy to Jedi Knight 2, where I just didn't get to enjoy Outcast, I think, the way it was intended. It also had a little bit of what I struggled with Dark Forces. We'll put them side by side here. Dark Forces got me spun around a lot of times. And I had that same issue. Like, where's the key item I'm looking for? I did not have that issue pretty much ever in Jedi Academy. I had that a lot in Jedi Outcast. So made it a little bit more difficult to play, but it's awesome to be Kyle Katarn in that game. But I kind of just prefer all the upgrades and the customization and the agency that Raven Software brought with Jedi Academy compared to Jedi Outcast. Okay, if you know me, let's get these two out of the way. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. My favorite games of all time, both of them. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 is my favorite RPG ever. KOTOR 2 is my favorite game ever. Just both of these are, I think, just how video games should still be. Obviously, I'd love to see like more improved lighting and graphics and all that stuff, but in the terms of like hub design and dialogue and choice and consequence and player morality and character building, this is just, I think, how RPG should be. This is BioWare and Obsidian at their best. KOTOR 2 has a wicked script that I just don't understand how a human ever came up with it. It's like a pre-AI era thing too. So it's like, how did you do this, man? That is incredible. KOTOR 1 is just an era of Star Wars, though, that I cherish so deeply, and so many of us do as well. I think there's a reason why Disney has avoided the Old Republic, because it is that sacred era of Star Wars. It is our literal bastion of hope. Like, for as down as I can get about Star Wars at times, I look at Old Republic and I'm like, you are pure. You are untainted. There's no movies or shows that are beating you over the head. It is just a beautiful era of Star Wars that's more political, more medieval, and I love that. And KOTOR 2 to me is like low-key a post-apocalyptic video game. Okay, these four we can also do in a batch because we're talking about a Lego game, and you play one, you kind of play them all, but each does something different for its time period. So what we got here is Complete Saga, Force Awakens, Skywalker Saga, and Episode 3. Obviously, Complete Saga is a combination of 1 and 2, but I thought it was kind of pointless, kind of redundant to rank Complete Saga and then Lego Star Wars 1 and Lego Star Wars 2. So Lego Star Wars Complete Saga, add another one to the S tier list, man. This is an incredible video game. The mumbling, the comedic charm. I mean, this is a lot of people's introduction to Star Wars. It is the beginning of something truly brilliant in the Lego video game franchise. I mean, it had been going for a while, but Lego Star Wars was really where like they struck gold. And it just felt so at home. Like, they've done a lot of different ones really well, Lego Batman, Lego Harry Potter, and so on, Lego Indiana Jones. Like, they've done them so well, but it just feels so right with Lego Star Wars. Maybe because I've personally built a lot of Lego Star Wars things going into this, but to take that toy and then make it into a game, and then to do another game of the original trilogy, and then to bring them all together, this is like the perfect Lego video game. It doesn't get much better than this one here. Lego Star Wars Force Awakens, this was like an impossible video game. To me, it's B tier. This is a game that really, I mean, I know we have such a negative view of Star Wars for many of us, but Force Awakens, I do think was a great movie. It's a great starting point, at least. I know the execution afterwards was kind of messed up, but to have that movie and step out of that theater and be like, okay, I'm excited about Star Wars, and to then get the return of Lego Star Wars, it's like, what? This is like, I'm a kid again, man. It was such a good era. And so it didn't have the same cultural impact. It didn't have the same personal impact, but it was just great to be back playing some Lego Star Wars again in the modern era. So I enjoyed that a lot. Speaking of modern era Lego Star Wars, we have Skywalker Saga here. And this one also, I'd say, goes in the A tier. I think this is a great game. There are some episodes, no doubt, that are way lower quality than others. Like, I thought the prequels were gonna smash. They were a little bit weak. The original trilogy is fantastic. And some of the sequel trilogy stuff is hit or miss, as expected. But it was still a really impressive game. The amount of open world zones and side quests, the interaction you have, the upgraded combat system that's like insane to combo with, like the strings you can pull off, is just so ridiculous, so unneeded, to be honest with you, but I thought it was cool. So when you combine all of that and all these playable characters, it's just fun to be lost in the Lego verse instead of just like a particular era of Star Wars. This is just the complete Lego Star Wars experience. Is it better than Complete Saga? No, but I do view it as like a great modern option. Like if I'm growing up and I get this as an experience, I'm very happy. So no complaints there. Lego Star Wars 3, I admit I have very foggy memories of because I didn't watch the show until late and I only played very little of it, but I'm gonna put it in the B tier. This feels a little safe for me, I'll be honest, because I liked what I played. I don't know how deep into the show it went, but again, that Return to Lego Star Wars, huge win there. Next up, this game was an obsession for me as a kid. I just thought it looked so cool in the videos because of the stealth takedowns. And that's Star Wars Lethal Alliance. I got my hands on it, and there's the PSP version, there's the DS version. I've never played the DS version. I've played the PSP version a decent amount, and I put it in like the C tier. It is really cool kind of for its time, like the animation quality and the, again, the backstabs and the stealth gameplay wowed me a lot as a kid. But playing it nowadays, you know, it's again, kind of like what I talked a bit about with Renegade Squadron and a lot of games on the PSP. Like they did that lacking of a right analog stick, which the Vita figured out, was such a difference maker for that system, in my opinion. But so many games were just, I think, one arm tied behind their back on the PSP. And so this is another one that I just don't think is as engaging to play with. Next up, we have Star Wars Clone Wars lightsaber duels. Cool idea, not, you know what, now D tier is a little aggressive, C tier. It's a cool idea, not bad. You get all these playable characters from the Clone Wars TV show. It's a Wii game, you wave around your Wiimote, and you clash sabers with your favorite villains or heroes, and it's fun. It's like a fun time, but that's literally it. It's the most obvious game that could have ever existed. It's surprising that out of everything here, it took that long to get there. Star Wars Obi-Wan. I gotta be real with myself. We did a little playthrough on this one, and its animations are impressive for its time. I have a lot of memories with this game. I remember like renting it from Blockbuster, not really vibing with it. We did a whole kind of, actually, I think the only one of two Let's Play style videos. We did one for the Burger King games and one for Star Wars Obi-Wan. Just really weird off the board selections for me. But even playing it then, like it was a fun time, but it was like kind of like a goofing off, this is so bad type of fun time. Animations, cutscenes, voice acting, all pretty low quality stuff here. Some of the levels were cool enough, but I just felt like the combat wasn't quite there. Kind of a mediocre Star Wars games, all things considered. The episode 1 and 2 era of Star Wars games was really hit or miss. Honestly, that's why the best you really got was Clone Wars, in my opinion, at that point. Battlefront 1, I don't think I have much interesting things to say on this at this point because I've talked about every Battlefront experience. Battlefront 1 goes in the S tier because it gave birth to what Battlefront would be. Such an incredible idea. I always remember being sold on this game. I've told this story before, but I was in 2nd grade and I told a friend, because I was playing Knights of the Republic, I said, I wish there was a game where I could just play as like a clone trooper. And he said, oh, look. And like he had a flyer on him for, I think it was Circuit City or Best Buy, but he brought it in the next day and he pointed, he said, this game here, and he pointed at Battlefront. He's like, I got this, and it lets you play as like a rebel trooper, it lets you play as like a clone trooper. I was like, what? No way. And so I put it on my birthday list, and my parents, as amazing as they are, got it for me. And that was a really cool gift, and I played so many hours of it. And now as an adult, the thing I enjoy about it a lot is honestly the map design, the mission design, the kind of guest characters that roam the map. It definitely feels like a well-realized idea, and it has the best loading screens in video games ever. Star Wars: The Old Republic, A tier. I mean, this is one of my favorite MMOs ever, just for its storytelling, its writing. I had a love-hate relationship for a while because I love the Old Republic universe, but I really struggled to fall in love with it because I wanted KOTOR 3. I wanted more Knights of the Old Republic, and they called the Old Republic Knights of the Republic 3 through 9. I hated that growing up. I remember wanting to get a PC for this, but then I read that interview and I was like, no, it's not. Like, this is not a replacement for it. I would eventually grow up and learn that, oh, there's not going to be any Knights of the Republic forever. And God willing, I hope that remake comes out because I need that in my life. I hope it's really good. But I grew up and I was like, well, this is the only way I can get Old Republic video game content that's unexperienced for me right now. So let me go ahead and check that out. And yeah, man, just like, it's a simple hot bar type of combat MMO, but I just love this universe. The music that they reused from the games, by the way, like Knights of the Republic 1 and 2 is here. The voice acting, the storytelling, like the Imperial Agent storyline is really good. So there's a lot that's here that's great. And I think it's kind of free to play model is very friendly for a game that is seemingly on its last leg. So if there's ever been a time for you to dive in and experience those stories, it feels like now's a good time. Star Wars Outlaws. What could have been? Out of everything here, right? You'd think Star Wars open world games should have been checked off a while ago. But no, Ubisoft is the first to step up and bring us a true open world Star Wars game. Star Wars Survivor had an open world zone. We'll talk about that as well. But, you know, Outlaws has open worlds and it had space combat and spacefaring. And this game just... you know, I actually ended up liking the story more than anything else out of this game. It was the gameplay experience. Like, why can't I hold weapons I pick up? Why is the stealth so limited? It's not even like the nitpicking side of it all. Like, why is she punching clone troopers in the back of the head and knocking them out? Yeah, that felt like a placeholder animation that just never got fixed by launch, or changed by launch, I should say. And that was just kind of that. And it looks ridiculous, but it's more the idea of like, if you get caught, the mission resets. It's like 2009 game design in a 2024 game. This game had so many of the markings to be great. Like it honestly was one of those moments where I was like, I hope Ubisoft does their typical checklist open world. It's safe, but it's what I would want. Because it's just kind of like what I talked about with Skywalker Saga. It's like, I just want to live in this world. And I don't feel like Outlaws did that very well. The environments were not as interesting as I expected. The questing wasn't as interesting. The main story, again, I thought was all right enough. But I already am forgetting the main character's name, but I did like her more than I expected. So yeah, like it could have been so much better. It could have been. I do want to try it after all the updates are done for it. I know they're just releasing some new DLC now. But it's a game that I was really rooting for. I really was, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And I did think that this would be great, but there was just so many technical issues and the game design was bad. And ultimately it's just like, yeah, I love Star Wars, but this was like a backbreaker for me. I'm like, not this much, right? This is like, if this is the best we can get, I'm good. Star Wars Racer. Sorry, y'all. Never played this one. I wanted to make sure I at least had one I never played. This is one I've seen it before, if that counts for anything, but there's a whole Star Wars Racer trilogy, and I have no experience with it, so I cannot rank this one. I apologize if this is your S-tier Star Wars game. Speaking of S-tier Star Wars games, Republic Commando. One of the most painful cliffhangers I've ever experienced. I still think about the ending of this game probably monthly. Like, ever since I beat it as a kid, the fate of a certain character has just hung with me, and there was never a sequel made. There was never like even a book made. I don't think that like continued that story. You'd see the Republic Commandos showing up from the games in like, you know, Clone Wars, the show, but like this was pre that mission. So I want answers, man. I want answers. Please give me that sequel. But look, Star Wars first-person shooter, really gritty, incredible voice acting, by the way. Incredible voice acting. Also, the vibro blade in the fist, stabbing Geonosians and seeing like blood hit your visor and then wiping it off. This game was atmospheric. It was very moody, but it was still like a pure Star Wars game. And again, the twist at the end, so good. Please play this game. I platinumed it on PlayStation. I've replayed it so many times. Forever will be a game that I'll go back to and just re-experience over and over and over again. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, let the trend continue. Let's throw Starfighter in there as well. Yeah, again, vehicle-based Star Wars games like go so far, and Rogue Squadron, like especially Rogue Squadron 3, like lets you get out of your vehicle, but like it's these fixed cameras and stuff. Again, kind of that ace combat style, flying around, shooting. And when I was playing like Battlefront, I'm like, this does this well enough, but with like great on foot shooting and great campaigns and great modes. So why would I be interested in something like these games? That's the question I always ask myself with these more strictly vehicle-based games. There were just better options on the market. But Star Wars Squadrons is a B tier, strictly because of the VR mode. I played this in VR and it was just so cool. It was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted. Like, I'm just there in the cockpit. I'm flying around. I'm like looking over my shoulder. This was a Star Wars experience that's very unique to everything on this list. Like VR and Star Wars work very well together. It had a borderline identical story, a plot line to what Battlefront 2 had. So that was, you know, not very great, but hey, it was a good time, Star Wars Squadrons. VR Star Wars games as well. Vader Immortal, I'm going to put in the C tier just because I don't think I finished the story, so I can't say definitively, but I did that training mode a lot. When I first got my Oculus Rift, this was like the main game I played. I would do like stylish deflects, like the Anakin Skywalker deflect, you know, over the top of the head. That was the thing I was doing pretty often. So Vader Immortal was just fun to fire up and be a Jedi for a little bit. It just was super empowering. And you know what? What am I doing? That was B tier. Like, I grinded the hell out of that thing. I had so much fun with it. It was worth the price of admission for the VR headset alone just to be a Jedi. So yeah, these two, just great VR experiences. And the last one on our list here, Jedi Survivor. Why not end on an S tier? So I do think this is a little bit better than Fallen Order. I know people had really bad performance experiences with this game. I reviewed it on PS5 and I still stand by my verdict. I think this is a perfect sequel in every way. I know, again, a lot of people very angry about the performance. I did not have such bad hiccups that, and like, you know, game-breaking issues that it completely disrupted my experience. Like, that was just never happening, for me at least. I know on PC, whole different story. But for me, in my experience, Jedi Survivor was an amazing time, especially the second half and some of the boss fights and the way the story goes. I still talk about my friends. I'm like, what an amazing Star Wars story. Again, similar thing I said about Jedi Fallen Order of like, this is a restoration exercise. You have low hope in Star Wars. The Jedi series will carry you back to greatness. But it also evolved the combat system in interesting ways, like the blaster style. What a cool idea. It was a very zipline happy game. Like, everything in this world is connected by zip lines. I hope in the third entry in the series, they do get a little more clever with their environmental design, just so that, you know, I don't mind some zip lines, but like zip lines everywhere gets a little crazy, but so many big open areas, so much side content, so much to do. And again, incredible combat, very Souls-like. So I was playing this on like the second hardest difficulty most of the way through, and I had a blast with it. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it. 39 Star Wars games, well, 38, I didn't play Racer, ranked here. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What are your favorite Star Wars games? Fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.